Hey, it's your girl, Copper Color Creations, coming with another update. Hey, family, how is everybody doing out there? Hey, I am back, family, and I want to give all the praise to my framer and shaper. All praise to the Most High. Allah, family. Okay, shout out to everybody reading, researching, and showing thyself approved. All right, family, we here. The name of this video is Chicago, aka Chigagou, really Rome. Okay. All right. Before I get started, I want to let everyone know, um, all my followers. I just discovered yesterday that YouTube has been holding my messages. I could not find them, and all of a sudden they just appeared, family. I have no idea what's going on, but I want to apologize to all my followers. I Many messages were many comments were posted months ago, and y'all know I love tapping with my people, and I just feel so bad. And I know y'all probably wondering, oh wow, she's not even responding. No, that's not the case, family. Y'all already know things are being tampered with, but that is not going to stop me. So, with that being said, family, let's go ahead and get started. Please keep leaving the comments. Please keep coming to my page, and I won't let everyone down. I will continue to um, keep the water flowing, family. Okay, so I just wanted to apologize to my followers. Um, all right, so let's get started, family. Yes, um, Chicago, the name of Chicago is not Chicago. I found out that the original name of my city is Chigagou. And yeah, it's a lot of information. It's a lot of stuff that I want to share um, about Chicago. So I found a couple articles, and this will be maybe it's going to be definitely a part one, two series, maybe three, because there's so much information. But when I say is Chicago really Rome, I mean that, family. But first, let's start off with how they reconstructed Chicago and how they lied and how they fabricated maps and things like that. All right. So let's first start with the first article I have. Um, all right. And family, for those that are in Chicago and surrounding areas, please dig on this. This information is out there. You know, certain things are hidden, maps you have to dig on, and there are other people digging on this as well. But yeah, it's something that is being exposed. So let's get started. This first article is by Chicagoology, and I'm going to post the articles into the information box, family. Let's get started. What does the word Chicago mean? The official origin is that Chicago is the French version of the Miami, Illinois word Chicagoa, meaning stinky onion, named for the garlic plant, not onion. Allium trichocum, common along trichocum, it's trichocum family, sorry, common along the Chicago River. However, there have been many theories over the years, and here are some of them. Chigagou is an Indian tribe. Number two, Chigagou is Miami and Illinois word for skunk. Number three, Chicago is an Indian word for thunder. Chigagou Jesuit mission and French army posts at the site of Marquette's 1675 camp along South Branch, and Chicago meaning playful waters. And The last one it says Chief Chigagou, also known as Agapit Chigagou, Native American leader of the Michigamia. Okay, so those seem to be, let's see, six six of the same words with different meanings, but Indian tribe and Chief Chigagou, Chief 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 Chigagou is exactly what Chicago's named after. All right, all right, family. Let's go ahead. And then they have an article here from the Chicago Tribune dating from June 10th, 1897, states that Chicago um, was named after a river, the Chicago, and the displays the same in Indian language. First mention of the city by the lake was by Lake LaSalle, who called the place Fort Crevasseur. All right, numerous sources of the origin of the titles of the city by the lake, many onions and interesting theories. All right, so they starting to tell the truth. All right, family. The first mention of the word Chicago, the Chicago of modern times, in its Hennepin's account of LaSalle's expedition to the Illinois River by way of St. Joseph and Kankakee in 1680. The title of one of his chapters have been translated, an account of building of a new fort on the river of Illinois, named by the savages Chicago. Okay, so they always call us savages, family. All right, and by U.S. Fort Crevasseur, the river indicated by LaSalle is now known as the Displaying River. E. A. Haynes, in an article written by Blanchard's History of Illinois, says regarding the word Chicago is understood to be an Indian word. At least it is derived from that source, he says. What its precise meaning is, or whether it has any particular meaning at all in its present form as now applied, is a matter of considerable dispute among those who have given the subject attention. The word comes to us through the early French explorers of the West as an Indian word from the language of the Algonquin group. Whilst this group of the North American tribes had one general or generic language, by which they were distinguished, each tribe had its dialect differing more or less from that of other tribes of this same group. The standard or parent language, however, since its people came not known to whites, was that spoken by the Ojibways, Chippeways, the most powerful and numerous of various tribes of this group. Those who pretend to make any positive assertion, assertion as to the correct meaning of this word, as an Indian word, seem to have confined their investigations on the subject to the Indian language, as spoken by the Ojibways, without reference to any dialects, seeming to ignore the fact that it could come from any other source, whereupon they reach the conclusion and so assert that it means onions, garlic, leek, or skunk. So far as appears at this day, there seems to have been no social inquiry into the origin or meaning of this word until about the time of the rebuilding of Fort Dearborn in 1816. The year following that event, Colonial, uh, Colonial Samuel A. Starrant visited this place and in a letter to General Jacob Brown of the United States Army referred to the river here as the River Chicago, or in English, the Wild Onion River. The definition of the onion by the Reverend Edward Wilson in his Dictionary of the Ojibwe language is Kichishigagu Vizunama. He defines skunk as zangang. Zangang? Okay. John Tanner, for 30 years, a captive among Ojibways and many years United States Indian interpreter in a catalog of plants and animals found in the country of the Ojibways, with the English name appended to the narrative of this captivity, defines skunk as Shigang. He defines onions as Chigagou, skunk weed. In a note thereto by Dr. James, editor of Tanner's Narrative, it is added from Chigagou Wenzihi, Wenzai. This word is in singular number. Some derive the name Chicago. It is noticed that all who contend that the word Chicago, as applied to the river and city of the name, means skunk, onion, or like, derive their convictions on the subject from one or more of the authorities which are before cited, or from someone familiar with the Ojibways language, who forms his convictions to the same effect from the coincidence of sounds. History is so unsatisfactory and varied in regard. Tell me about it. To this word that we are left to this day to determine its meaning solely on basis on the similarity of sounds. For there seems to be no fact or incident narrated or mentioned in history that leads with any degree of certainty either to the original meaning of this word or to the dialect from which it is derived. And it is to be confessed on the theory aforesaid, succeeding that the word comes from the Ojibwe language or dialect. No one is prepared to dispute the assertion so generally made that the word is derived from skunk. The word skunk being in the Indian tongue simply shikang. In order to make Chicago, the theory adopted is that ung and Ojibwe local termination is added, which makes Chigagou ung, meaning at the skunk. The sound ing being dropped in common speech, leaving the word in form now used. Whilst this is not inconsistent in practice in dealing with Indian names, there is another theory. It is suggested, which may be adopted in this connection, that would seem to be equally consistent. The word Chicago, without adding a ng, the ing, would be a fair Ojibwe expression. The sound O added would denote the genitive and might be rendered thus him of skunk. In case it would probably be the name of an individual. It is stated that this word is the name not only of someone Indian chief, but the name also of a line of chiefs during several generations. The hijack is real, family. Dodge all hijacks. The most that can be said of the word with any degree of certainty is that it is of Indian origin and comes from some dialect of the Algonquin group, so called. It must be noted, however, that the Ojibwe dialect this word, or that which is essentially the same, is not confined in its meaning that contended for as before mentioned. The word may mean also in that language to forbear or avoid from kangu, forbear, and she, a prefix answering to our proposition to, or it may mean something great from kegu, something, and she from get chi, great. Besides, several other words or expressions which may be found in this dialect of the same sound, yet of different meanings. Shigegu was the name of a noted Sac chief and means in that dialect, he that stands by the tree in the Potawatomi dialect. The word Chakago, without addition or abridgment, means destitute. All right, and here is Joliet's map of the New France 1674 family. These maps, if you guys can web capture, and I mean, there's a canal that I'm looking at that they're showing you a reason for this. And the reason why I say is Chicago really wrong. We're going to get there. Just stick with me, family. Here's another cut off of a map showing you this trade route. Looks like they had something in mind here. And if you look at the green line, family, you see Chigagou, and then where it goes up right here, the canal. So there's a reason for things, family. And here we go again. All right. So I'm gonna go to the next article, but I want to go over the pictures first before I go over the next article, family. All right. So, and this is crazy coming from anyone that's lived in Chicago or near Chicago. Um, when the energy there, for those that live in the suburbs, um, because I was raised in the far suburbs of Chicago, so coming into the city, it's this raise of energy that you get. And I'm serious. It's like ever since I was a child, even when my mother used to, back and forth to the city, soon as we enter that loop, it just seems like, I want to say, the ley line that starts, let me think here, family, because I actually know. Right when you there's a ley line, family. Right when you pass that ley line and you go and you see O'Hare, that's when your energy changes. And I mean, it changes for the good, family. The energy in Chigagou is amazing. I will no longer call Chicago, Chicago, family. It will be Chigagou, what our ancestors called it before they got slaughtered. All right. Let's talk about the first Europeans to see Chigagou in 1673. They claim, okay, let's talk about what they claim what it was, because what I'm finding out is, for many know that we went through, in the 1800s, we went through a reconstruction period, family, where they tore buildings down, blew them up, bombed them, and reconstructed them to fit their narrative. So, yeah, things have been. That's why we have to be on this deep sea diving of a research, family. It takes all of this. All right, let's go. Jacques Marquette, Jesuit missionary, mid 30s. He hoped to convert the natives to Christianity. Bam. There you go. So he came over here, and his job was to convert our ancestors to Christianity. For our Hebrew Christians and Christians out there that are listening, family, these people had a mission. They came and they did exactly what they were prophesied to do, you know. Excuse me. But, you know, it's okay, because once we find out who we are and where we come from, then we know who our enemies are, okay? And how we are going to fight our enemies is with this knowledge and wisdom. We don't need a gun. We don't need a sword. We with this knowledge and wisdom is very lethal, family, and it's causing a lot of problems. So beware. All right, the other one that came over was Louis Joliet. Wow. So that would explain where Joliet and Marquette came from. For those that live in the city, y'all dig on this. This is deep, and it gets really, really deep. Okay. He was a French explorer, under 30 years old. He wanted to map the unknown interior of America and claim new land for France. Okay. So they each had an agenda, you know, and they came together like they do on their agenda. All right. So we see that what was going on there. Um, let's go another insert. Also, it says at Chigagou waterways east run east and waterways west run west, which allows for easier travel to Atlantic Ocean east and Mississippi River and Gulf of Mexico, which is west. And family, what I believe is that they have manipulated that flow. I mean, I'm still digging on this, but um, from what I understand is they have manipulated the flow of that, and the Father will reverse everything that was manipulated. Trust. These were for trade routes. They had missionaries, just straight mission and missionaries. Um, and this is not just in Arizona. This is all over the world. And so I'm just happy I can jump out of timelines, and this is home. This hits home right here for me. So I'm digging a little deeper on this Chigagou, you know. And another insert I found very interesting. It says the Native Americans in the area, they came from Siberia across the Bering Strait through Alaska, Canada, and then south. Because of the weather and the inhospitable land, most natives didn't settle in the Chicagoo area. Okay, so we digging on it. We on an investigation, family. I'm on it. And when I say, is Chicago really Rome? All right, let's go. Here's a 1833. Look like a American Indian map showing you the flow, how to flow. See, because um, our rivers and lakes flow naturally. Everything was natural for our harvesting and our crops and our vegetation and our corn. We had things on a natural flow. And, this map is not as clear as I want, but I have a clearer map. A lot of these maps, family, I am getting blew up as we speak. And I have shout out to Caesar Graphics, a dear friend of mine who is blowing up all my maps. And what is Caesar doing, family? He is um, not framing them. I forgot the name of it, family. He's framing them in this. I'm gonna figure out what he's doing, but he's reserving them, not laminating. He's laminating my maps. Sorry, family. I don't know how I forgot that. So I'm getting them all laminated so I can hang on the wall and I can really look at them because I got some real ancient maps that I'm really curious about. This map of Chicago is from 1833. And if you can see the flow of how the rivers, um, I believe that they had an agenda, which we all know. I have another map. I want to pull up this one. I have the full map of this one, family. But I just did a web capture. I wanted you guys to see how we have the Miami's, Miami's. I gotta, well, and it looks like that's why when you look at Miami, we have a Miami here in Arizona, and it's amazing. Family, boots will be on the ground there. I mean, it's just so much to cover. We have a Miami in Illinois. We have a Miami everywhere. So, family, when y'all doing y'all research, connect those dots. Please. Please connect those dots. When I say America is the old world, they they didn't do. I just want to say they're not as bright as we think that. We give these people too much credit, family. That's all I'm gonna say. Too much credit. All right. Here's Chigagou, and this is a beautiful, beautiful picture from an airplane, family. I am going on part two. I have some amazing footage of me landing in. I am going to share them, and I have some other footage I am going to be sharing on part two. I'm going to go a little deeper into Chigagou, family. All right, this is the layout map of Illinois and Michigan, the Canal of 1848. We just talking Chigagou, an Indian chief. Look at this canal, family. So I think they knew exactly what they were doing when they came over here. Looked like they reversed some things to clog up our rivers and lakes and for their trade, and they rebuilt something. So basically, it looked like they came in for a mission, a reconstruction, and that's exactly what they did. They tried to make us think that I'm going to prove to a lot of people these maps are wrong. Let's go over to the next article. Chicago. Chicago. Sorry, family. Chicago, transforming the Chicago swamp into a prosperous city. The foundation of a modern city. Although the discovery of what is present day Chicago was long done by the Indian Americans and other earlier European traders, such as the French fur trappers Pierre Maroux and the surgeon Joliet and Marquette, who were first recorded their journey through the unmapped land in 1673. City of the Big Shoulders is what they called it. A history of Chicago. Joliet immediately saw the potential that could spring from this swampy, smelly, and abandoned plateau. He urged that France claim and colonize this land to avoid Britain's westward expansion and to get started on the project to connect the Lake of Illinois, aka Lake Michigan, to the River of St. Louis, the Illinois River, by creating a canal through the portage. City of Big Shoulders, a history of Chicago. Unfortunately, this was left to do much later. Up until the mid 1800s, the French settlers depended greatly on fur trade while their grand plans for Chigagou halted. And this is what the mud lake, the portage between the Mississippi and the Great Lakes system. I mean, the picture I'm still digging, family. Some of these pictures are fake. Okay, just bear with me on part two. I'm gonna expose them. A lot of these pictures that I'm gonna show you guys are fake. Okay, a lot of the maps are fake, but that's okay. We know we've been hijacked. That's why we hijack free. All right, let's go. It was great innovations, inventions, industry dominance, and that entrepreneurial spirit that transformed Chicago into booming new American city of Chicago. Although smaller in scale to overcome the mud and floods, Americans tried different techniques such as raising the city by building their homes, etc. at above ground level, which also allows sewage systems, and setting wooden platforms above the mud, which aided trade and the standard of living. Big Shoulders, a history of Chicago. After much anticipation, canal fever, inspired by the successful Erie Canal, built by New Yorkers, led to the construction of Illinois and Michigan Canal. The canal was finished in 1848 Instead of small portage, what the Americans had in mind was to build a new 96-mile long canal linking the Illinois River with the Chicago River, which would travel from Lake Michigan to the Mississippi directly. City of Big Shoulders. Now, it was much easier, cheaper, and faster for farmers to sell their products, harvest, and buy goods. The consumers also benefited from the innovation because now the crops were much more fresh and abundant than before. Although the construction of the canal brought a lot of business to Chicago, there was still room for improvement. And here it is, family. They made it. So they thought it would last forever. All right. Shortly after, Ogden Ogden led the construction of a new transportation system, railroads by 1857. Nearly 3,000 miles of railroad tracks connected Chicago with the East and the West. The railroads allowed for goods to sell at even cheaper rates and to be delivered to the people much quicker. All of this new infrastructure required workers. Therefore, a lot of jobs were offered to the Irish immigrants. Irish immigrants. Although the job conditions were terrible, the railroads, the new railroads made the time to transport crops much smaller, so the farmers turned their attention to planting wheat. Wheat sold at higher rates, yet they stayed away from it in the past because the long process of harvest and transportation destroyed much of their supply. Cyrus McCormick saw an opportunity and created the mechanical reaper in 1850s. In addition, the 1850 steam-powered grain elevator made the unloading and shipment of hundreds of pounds of wheat much easier and quicker. Before, it took a whole afternoon for a group of men to load the bags of wheat onto trains. But now a single man could do the same job by simply operating the machine in just one short hour. Farmers' lives were forever simplified. Such entrepreneurial spirit was what pushed Chicago to success. And there's the steam locomotives of Chicago. There's a picture of the railway in 1942 right here. The meat packing industry was one that lured tourists in to witness it. To many, the sight of Chicagoans committing mass murder so casually, what? To many, the sight of Chicagoans committing mass murder so casually gave them chills. The stockyard workers had dominated mass production by following the disassembly line. This production process was what actually inspired Henry Ford to implement the assembly line to build his model car. By 1862, Chicago was the Porkopolis of the world. In the 1870s, Gustav Swift perfected the refrigerated railroad car that 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 meet the customer preference of fresh meats. I want it should have said met, but okay. That's their article, family. Furthermore, the lumber industry boomed as a direct result of Michigan and Illinois Canal and continued to flourish thanks to the railroads. By the late 1850s, the railroads made Chicago the number one lumber market worldwide. In 1872, 9,000 out of 13,000 ships that entered the Chicago River carried lumber. Thanks to efficient transportation systems, Chicagoans had the luxury to purchase multiple types of trees to build their homes, their workplace, and even their railroads. Lastly, in order to close the gap between the urban and rural inhabitants, the mail order catalog business was created. The goal of this new system was to eliminate the middleman and directly sell the products to customers. This revolutionizing marketing technique made the prices of goods surprisingly low that people were skeptical at first. Being legitimate, the catalog business, particularly that of Sears, thrived rapidly and connected the people that lived hundreds of miles away from Chicago to the city. Now farmers were positively impacting Chicago's economy as much as the urban inhabitants were. All right, family. These are the two articles um, that I, you know, wanted to share with you guys. Um, is Chigagou really Rome? Well, let's go ahead and dig deeper into that, family. On part two, I'm going to be uncovering some things. We're going to dig deeper into their reconstruction and how they lied and fabricated. A lot of these maps, family, are fabricated. You got to go on a map quest to really put them together. I would suggest if you really want to um, connect the dots when it comes to maps, you need to put them on your wall and put them all together. I'm talking about the real maps, not these fake maps. You got to dodge a hijack with these maps because that's how, once you lie once, you got to keep lying. That's why you got to keep the code, stay in Torah mode at all times, family. Because y'all see them, they just lying and lying and they just lying and fabricating pictures and everything. So when I say dodge the hijack, this ain't just reading an article or a book, family. You must dissect words and get the meanings because things were changed and words, you see, they just basically stated that Chicago, which is Chigagou, was from an onion, a skink weed from on the side of the river. I mean, okay, let's say that that's where our chiefs got the word from, and that's where his name, but they just blunt out, don't even want to connect it to the chief, uh, Chigagou. So that's questionable. So yeah, we're gonna dig on that, family. Part two, stick with me. I got some drop, family. All right, all right. Also, before I sign out, uh, once again, I did state that YouTube is messing with my comments, but that's okay. I am working on some things. Got some surprises for my copper color code keepers. But I have a follower that made a comment on my Hopi Indian um, video. And follower, if you're out there and you can hear me, your name is Arnold. And you made a comment and you said, look up the Tartarian World's Fair. I have a feeling that when the white man, and boom, and they took that comment from you. Okay? So for information like that, I'm going to leave my email in the description. Information like that, I feel needs to go to the email. So feel free to send them to my email, coppercolorcreations@gmail.com, because I feel like that comment was very important, family, and YouTube will not let me open it. They won't let me see it. They just said, here, it's right here. And when I go to open it or try to find it, I can't find it. So Arnold, I've been trying to find you. Whoever you are, please repeat what you said, or information to help me is very important. Family, for those that live in the city, Chigagou, hey, get the digging because I'm about to release some information about Chigagou that a lot of people living there all their lives have no idea what's going on. So it's very important for us to release this to the Tri family. All right now, all right now, y'all. Y'all stay safe out there. Keep the code. Stay in Torah mode. Exodus 20. Forever. All praise to the Most High. Halahawa. One family.